Preach cashing in on controversy just another day. Alright, let's see. Yo, he starts out with the L1 music too. I swear, man. I swear. If you ever want to get clicks on your YouTube video, bro, and like trigger nostalgia, get people to tune into your video, you just start out with L1 music. Oh, and he's got the Unreal Engine too? This is a good guy. Heyo. No changes. Pog, 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 pog. Bro, I wish I could do my intros this long and people would stick around. Bro, what was that? A minute 13 intro? Bruh. That's like old school movies back in the day. Have you guys ever... I don't know if you guys have watched old movies recently. Yikes, dude. Hang on, let me just not die in the Naga Cave. Ho, 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 ho. You guys ever watch old school movies? Their intros are like 6 minutes long, dude. Holy cow. He's truly like an old school Andy with a minute long intro to YouTube, and it still works for him.
Forums, the Reddits, the Twitter sphere. As yesterday,
let's go.
As of recording this, the WoW token appeared on the North American realms and on the EU realms for World of Warcraft Classic Wrath of the Lich King. There was no real post. There was nothing. It just arrived and it was happening and it went off like a bomb.
Community like
an absolute bomb, with the subreddit announcing that now, you guys, you're free to talk about private servers. You can go and check other games out. Like the integrity of the game
unhinged.
is completely ruined. A lot of people upset that things like the random dungeon finder, which is due to arrive in World of Warcraft Classic in a couple of content patches, has been denied because no changes and all that kind of nonsense, and they want it to be in a strict formula, yet the WoW token is now here and people can effectively buy gold. And this has led to massive outcries because there's a lot of people who care for Classic very, very deeply. They were chasing this dream for such a long time. You might remember all those years back with meetings from all the big private servers. I got to meet some of them at events, and how passionate and how much they cared about it and how much they wanted to work with Blizzard. Of course, we had the famous "you think you want it, but you don't." And obviously John Haidt, who I interviewed.
Yo, if that's a Mandela effect, it better be "you think you do, but you don't." If it really is what Priest just said, "you think you want it, but you don't," we're in the multiverse right now.
Recently, who's in charge of all of World of Warcraft, mentioned is like, "But you did. You actually did want this thing, and we worked with it." And of course, some big names at Blizzard have come out of this success of WoW Classic, including Holly Longdale, who is now in charge of World of Warcraft as a whole because of the great success of World of Warcraft Classic and the passion she brought to it. So this has been sort of a big money earner for Blizzard, a big way. I did, off the cuff, mention to Ian Hazakostas when I was talking to him, is it felt to me like WoW Classic was kind of paying for retail. Like, the popularity of Classic was paying for retail. And he said, not really. It's like, you know, it's close. He didn't give me any specifics. But it felt that way as a player with the downturn in BFA and Shadowlands, as to the popularity that was happening with Classic. And of course, recently, the hardcore scene has blown up to the point where Blizzard has responded, and we've got hardcore servers coming where people can enjoy that. And hopefully we'll be running an event, so stay tuned for that, with some big giveaways for the Classic server launch. By the by,
running an event, doing big giveaways for a Classic server launch. Yo, what do you think Preach is up to on a hardcore fresh server? What event are they going to do? I heard this. People have been throwing this clip around. Are they going to do like a race to world first? Personal hardcore leveling stream. Guess the level that I die at, and we give away giveaways. Well, what could Preach possibly be doing? Free WoW token, first to 60. Any speculation on what Preach would be up to? I feel like that'd be a really fun thing to do as a streamer. Guess what level I'm gonna die at, and you're If you guess the right level, or if it's level 60, you get put into a giveaway, a drawing or something.
The WoW token was one of the big sticking points. First, it was boosts, like character boosts. People didn't want that. Boosts came to the game, and they were like, okay, getting a little frustrating. And of course, you've always got those players, talking about the boost, who were like, okay, this makes me want to play now, because leveling through vanilla is awful. And as somebody who did play Classic at launch, I agree. Leveling through vanilla for me is a horrible experience. I did not enjoy it. It was like mediocre fun sometimes, but other than that, it's kind of a tedious grind. I didn't enjoy it. And I will lay my cards on the table. I don't play Classic. I've played those games, and I've stuck to this point because it's the truth for the longest time, is I played all those games when they were current and relevant, and I did them to death. I played them every single day they existed. I played World of Warcraft in the beta all the way until I only stopped playing in Shadowlands, right? That was when I stopped actively playing. I played every single day World of Warcraft for that period of time. So reliving that was only going to be a negative thing because, of course, one thing that became very apparent when Classic released in the first week of Vanilla Classic launch, this was not the same game. The players are far too educated.
Sure.
They've mapped out every single aspect of this game. It's things like the farming art.
Okay, if it's not the same game though, would that not be kind of interesting to play? Is that not exciting to play, or you've done it once? Like, dude, I've never understood this take. I've done it once already, so I don't need to play the game again. It's going to be an inferior product. It's not fun to play.
What brings you
And I'm not
here?
saying you should play a game for nostalgia, but if it's not the same game and it's a different experience, is that not enjoyable? Do you not find enjoyment out of that? I've never understood the take. Maybe it's because I wasn't like old enough and played the game at like a max level. But this is like the Asmongold take as well. Like, I did that shit back, you know, I did that back in 2005. I already did this. I've already played the game. Why would I want to play it again? And it's really hard for me to like understand this. It's hard for me to understand how people don't find enjoyment out of a game they used to love and have an opportunity to play again.
Argent Dawn reputation day one, because you know you're going to need it when Naxxramas launches. That, of course, never happened in the Classic version of the game. Add-ons that exist that did not exist during the Classic era, which definitely made raiding and things considerably easier. And also the fact that people were getting epic mounts within like the first week or so. All right, they were getting them really, really quickly, which was a long-term goal originally because we didn't know the efficient ways of getting gold. We didn't know the maximum farm spots, and now they're even more optimized. And that's what we saw happen. It was a different game, and bosses fell over very easily.
True.
Of course, they have a sort of race to world first in Classic, but it's defeated in hours, whereas originally it was days, weeks, in some cases, to overcome these obstacles with super bug bosses like original Cthulhu, etc. So when it got to that point, and like the first kill of Ragnaros that I did was great, the first kill of Onyxia, but when it came to actually farming the game, I've done that to death. So I moved away. But that's not to say I don't have very, very close ties with the people over who play Classic. In fact, several members of my previous retail guild still play Classic every single day to this day. So what does the WoW token mean? On the face of it, there are some people like, why does this matter? It's why is it a big deal? We can use this gold. Probably people are buying gold. The WoW token is a bit convenient. It can go towards balance, but kind of not in this case. It's going towards WoW game time. It's not a big deal. You guys are making a big fuss about this thing. I want to break down exactly why I do believe this is a terrible decision for all the wrong, for the reasons that might not be clear. First of all, if you're not playing Classic,
is it not clear the WoW token's a bad idea?
Because since day one of Classic Vanilla launching, the shape and face of how that game works is very, very different to probably what you're used to on retail. In fact, it's generally considered the meta, the most optimal way to play is via GDKP runs. And you can find these runs, many of them daily. And what this involves, for any of you who've never played this, this mode of the game, which is a player-decided mode, you go in and you bid gold on items. So something drops, and maybe it's something relatively inexpensive, like a cloak, a ring, something along those lines, and you bid gold against other people in the raid in order to acquire it. And if you win, you give your gold to the pot master. And what you have is this large pot of gold that will farm over the course of the raid. And then once the raid is completed, all that gold is distributed amongst the people who took part in that raid.
Right.
In theory and in practice, actually, the system kind of works very, very well. Because one, it incentivizes players to stick around till the end of the run. Because if you don't get your cut of the gold. It's as simple as that. It incentivizes you to play well, because if you're bad and you're just not contributing in any way, you'll likely be removed. There will be some boosters going on. That's absolutely the case.
There you go.
It also very much incentivizes really good players, quote unquote, the carries, because they are the, you know, those are the people who will play better than you even on their alts. We all know those people exist. Let's not pretend they don't. To go to these runs regularly. It also incentivizes those players who are doing the boosts, or the big players, who have acquired a lot of gold because they do this system regularly, to also reinvest their gold.
Sure.
And that means that the gold amount tends to go up, because those players are going to gear out their alts using this system. Because GDKP did exist back in the day. I've done several of them. Used to have a big problem is that eventually you would have like one character players who didn't need any more loot, who would show up to do the boosting, but were never going to invest any gold. This is counterintuitive to how GDKP should work, because eventually you just have a bunch of these players who are not contributing to the gold, and they're kind of hoping that the 7 or 8 or however many people who are desperate for gear are going to bring a lot of gold to make your run worthwhile. Very similar to what happens now with a ahead of the curve boosting, is you're just kind of hoping these few players will make your time worthwhile. But obviously, the longer this stuff goes on, and if you keep to that system, they have less and less gold, which means they bid less and less on items. So it naturally is counterintuitive to work that system if you're looking to make a lot of gold out of this system. So, in Classic, this has become the generally considered meta for acquiring gear. A lot of gold.
Yeah,
now, how much gold are we talking about? A lot. So we got to talk to some of the people who run these GDKP runs. We're obviously going to keep it relatively anonymous. However, one of them, Zoo GDKP, actually has everything public. They have every single speck of gold that has been utilized through their GDKP runs completely public for transparency's sake. Everything is accessible, so we can show you. In total, like we have some summaries here. In total, they have accumulated over the course of Wrath of the Lich King, in terms of their runs, 21,427,565 gold.
21 million gold in Wrath.
Kind of a ridiculous amount for Wrath of the Lich King.
21 million
kind of a ridiculous amount.
What's gold cap?
And then they have all the payouts, with an average
nothing.
payout per player of 73,000 gold each. Now that's each. That's for all the members of the raids running Ulduar, running
73,000 gold
Malagos,
for one
all
player.
those kinds of things. And of course, the upcoming TOGC, which they've said is going to be less relevant, but of course, Ice Crown Citadel is coming.
Do that 5 times a week.
Big money items like trinkets being like, and weapons being like huge investments for people. And no doubt if you've watched a lot of Classic players, you'll have seen people doing these GDKP runs. It's a tremendous amount of gold. Now, here's the thing. There is no fucking way in history that a lot of the gold that is going on in Wrath of the Lich King, and I'm ignoring for now, because we do know they exist, the people using RMT, and I mean literally they bid with PayPal, and if they have, I even, talking to these guys last night, like the underbelly of this system that's going on in some of these groups, which is they have somebody in there with...
Do people literally bid with PayPal and they don't even use gold?
A ton of gold, like gold cap essentially, and they are bidding on behalf of someone else who's paying with PayPal. We're not going into that. That is a darker side of this. This is not the people we spoke to. I want to be absolutely clear. That is not them. They are very much after. Some of you may be aware of the Gallywix incident. Gallywix was one of the biggest boosting services in World of Warcraft. They were run like a mafia. I worked with them. Everything seemed on the up and up. Everything seemed fine, and then suddenly became exposed that there was RMT and stuff going on, which is way against Blizzard's terms of service. So this is why the Zoo actually make everything public. Like, we're not doing that. It's nothing to do with us. Everything is on the up and up. So massive thanks to them for talking to us about this.
Scummy bots.
So it's a huge amount of gold, more gold than most people have probably ever seen. There are people in retail who have not seen 70,000 gold. So where is that gold coming from? Unquestionably, now you can't prove it, but we're not idiots.
Right.
Unquestionably, a lot of people are buying gold in World of Warcraft in retail. And Blizzard does do band waves, but very, very sparsely. Very sparsely. This was a big conversation we had, is like very rarely do they do a band wave, and there are bots everywhere. It was a big thing.
Like this guy.
Ever since
Bro, literally looking at a bot right now.
Of bots.
Look, he's targeting me too.
The rogues just cycling in and out of dungeons during TBC Classic, just constantly botting. and not enough is being done about them. And this is where the crux of the discussion kind of comes from, is Blizzard's moderation of what's going on in the classic servers is nowhere near enough, and now it seems like they're capitalizing on it. That's the problem. So purchasing gold obviously exists. We know that it exists. You can Google it now. And
Hold up. Yo, you guys saw this guy earlier, right? He just responded, not a bot. Yo, 100% a bot. Yo, this is some 19-year-old punk-ass kid testing his bot before the real hardcore server. He just came back to his PC, saw his whisper history. Already reported. Enjoy your ban, loser. Oh, wait. He's still using arcane missiles. Hang on. Dude, we saw this guy for like an hour earlier. Look, he's still a bot. Oh no, he's responding. Hang on.
you can find it, and it's something that can get your account banned. If Blizzard finds out, they can get your account banned, and it's a very real fear that's going on. And it's also massively unfair to the players who are not doing that because of the integrity. Those classic people who love the game and will farm legitimately are always going to be behind somebody who can spend €1 for 1,000 gold and be just way ahead of you. It's as simple as that. And then, of course, there's inflation, because when people buy gold, they can obviously bid more during these GDKP runs, which are the meta, and the price goes up beyond the capabilities of someone who's playing normally. Now you can see where the friction in the community exists, and what those players want is stop letting people buy gold. Because it kind of makes sense why GDKP exists, as I've explained already. There's a lot of merits to that system. Obviously, the guilds exist that are not doing this, but if you're a one-person Andy who can't join a guild and can't commit to progress, it makes a lot of sense to utilize these systems. But you're kind of being driven out because some guy who's a swiper could just buy way more gold than you can possibly farm, and therefore you are driven out of it. You simply do not have enough money in order to make this work, so you go down the alternative routes, and you always feel behind. You always feel like you're struggling. You're always feeling like catching up. Now, the WoW token comes in because they're not clearing out the bots well enough, which means there's so much gold in the economy already, because this system has existed for ages, right? This system has existed since Vanilla Classic, where botting existed from there, and we have a lot of video evidence of it. And now there's so much gold in the economy. Like I say, this group alone has made 21 million gold during Wrath of the Lich King. And now, they've, instead of like doing something stringent to bring that down, to try and get something in place, to stop the botting, to stop all the purchasing of gold, it very much feels to those players like the WoW tokens come in, and what it's done is it said, oh, so you guys who are playing legitimately.
Oh, this bot's so bad he just fell. While we're talking about
Matt
bots,
Shepard just subscribed.
I just can't help. This stupid ass bot just fell down there. Oh man. But I'm so mad that I can't kill this mage in here. I can't like threat swap. I stole one of his tags for a second, and one of the serpent guards actually got him down to like 60%, but then he ended up killing it.
Who can't really take part in this without farming your goddamn arse off like you're playing some free-to-play MOBA game, can actually just buy the gold legitimately. And you can just take part in it there, which will also drive up inflation because now the legit players, we'll call them that, are now also able to take part in this bidding of buying gold system. But now you're paying Blizzard for it because it's not even a one-to-one trade. It's not even a one-to-one ratio. Now Blizzard's taking a slice of the pie. They're skimming off the top, and that's how it's coming across to the community, is like, instead of fixing the core problem, which is probably, and I agree, is probably already beyond fixing because of the sheer quantity of gold that now exists in the game illegitimately, Blizzard's now just saying, well, we want a piece of that pie as well. Reminds me very much of when Twitch introduced bits. A lot of streamers are making money off tips and donations that are coming in. Let's introduce bits, so then we get a slice of that pie. Let's make it good. Let's pass a little bit to that to me. We can't stop it, so we're going to take a part of it. Now, this is why it feels so goddamn shady, and why people are so rightfully pissed off that this has come into the game, because all this does is inflate everything even more. Because what is the counter to this? And after talking to the guys who are involved in this, there's a very real situation where it's the fact everything's just going to be more expensive, and ultimately as the people controlling the GDKP runs and organizing these damn things, we're just going to make a lot more. And we're just taking money off people now. And we're just getting more. The rich get richer, and the poor now have to invest more money in order to take part in it, because the price is going to go up probably. Especially with Icecrown Citadel coming, which has got Deathbringer's Will. It's got Dislodge Foreign Object. These are all really prized items for the people who enjoy Wrath of the Lich King. And the likelihood is, if you want it and you're not in an organized progression guild, you're going to be spending a lot of money to that is what's going to happen. So you can see why the people are just absolutely outraged by this, because one, it doesn't need to exist, and two, the core problem that's led to the situation on the classic servers is not being addressed even closely well enough. And so it's just a nightmare situation that's actually occurred for these players. And I fully understand why people are pissed off. And you might think, well, they're going to boycott, right? No. A few hours after this went up, we checked the US realms. It had already sold out. Of course players are buying it, because it allows them to get things. It makes the whole thing so much easier. It's like, well, if you're not going to take some sort of moral stand, which very few people ever do, if you can't beat them, join them.
Oh, man.
Might as well. And now it was still available, or at least on Gehenna's, which is one of the biggest EU Classic servers. It was still available there, but in the US realms, it had gone already. And God knows now, as we're recording this, whether Gehenna's has already sold out. Because I know, well, in talking to them, a lot of people bought the token thinking they could buy Diablo 4 with it, and you couldn't, because it was only going to WoW game time. So they kind of got scammed on the whole goddamn thing. But ultimately, this is just... There's a perspective, which I've seen a lot on Twitter, which is like, this is no big deal, this isn't a thing. But it very clearly is. It very clearly is. And it feels so shady, because it just looks, at least to me and to a lot of other players, this is just Blizzard skimming off a system that they've not bothered to control, and now are going to take a piece of the pie. And for a lot of players, and I don't think it's going to be the majority, it will be the death knell into their classic experience that they waited years and years for. But there's always something like boosts coming in, I'm not playing. WoW tokens coming in, okay, I'm not playing. But as we said, these things are selling out across the place, and the concern going forward is this just, if the entire Wrath of the Lich King or classic experience, wherever it goes now, and after talking to the people who make World of Warcraft Classic and how passionate they are about actually creating it, I don't know where this decision came from. I don't want to know. But it clearly looks like the face of, if you want to really enjoy Classic, you have two options. One, you invest fully, you get a progress guild, which isn't too bad, right? I mean, Classic is notoriously not particularly hard compared to modern day retail stuff. Go that route, but it does require a time commitment, which many people do not want to make. Or second, get your wallet out. If you want a decently geared character, if you want to experience the stuff, if you want to be competitive with other people, if you want to enjoy PvP with...
So that's exactly what Preach is saying, and I guess this is my final thoughts on it too. What's the standard for Wrath now? And I think this is why people are and should be upset, is can I never play Wrath of the Lich King without the WoW token in it now? Now that the precedent's been set, if they ever re-release TBC, can I play TBC without a level 60 boost like they introduced at the beginning of TBC being out? Is there never like a pure way to play the game? A lot of people, they want to earn their keep. They want to be on a level playing field. They don't want RMT to be in the game. They want their time spent in game to be valuable. So now that this precedent's been set, will there ever be a Wrath of the Lich King without the WoW token? And if there's not, that's super shitty, bro. I think the compromise, if they ever do re-releases, they should just do 6-12 months. After 6 to 12 months, you add the boost, you add the WoW token. And you just do fresh without the WoW token, without the boost. And then afterwards, who cares? But charge me 20 a month instead and give me a pure game. Yeah.
Without getting squashed into the floor and doing all those kinds of things.
Well, this basically confirms Kata. I think that's the end of the video. We can watch the next one. But yeah, man, that's Preach's ideas on it. I guess that's my thoughts is, will I ever be able to play Wrath again without the WoW token in it? I don't know.